So pause with Tim Black. Pause with me for a second. In 2021, I heard a lot of people talk about defund the police. I heard people who criticized the term defund the police. But see, even when I had my concerns about the framing of the slogan, I knew what defund the police meant. I knew that it meant we were going to also focus on the issues that create crime to begin with. The lack of job opportunity, the lack of job training, the lack of resources in that community that makes crime a viable option. Sometimes it can appear to be the only option. Like, I looked at it holistically. Like, what are the things that are surrounding this incident? All the incidents that create crime have gone on for so long in this country. You cannot tell me that we don't have smart people with the ability to sit down and say, hey, what do these things have in common? Put it this way. To grow tomatoes, there's certain shit that has to happen with the soil. There's certain things you gotta do. You don't just wake up one day, walk outside, and you got a vine full of tomatoes. No, there's things you have to do to create tomatoes. You know, right? Anybody here ever farmed? Anybody ever grew any food? When I was a kid, my granddad, he was a part of a church. One of the things they did is they had a piece of land here in D.C. I would go every once in a while and help him pick the vegetables and stuff, you know, the string beans, the tomatoes, the carrots, the greens, the lettuce, whatever they were growing, okay? So this is something I did as a kid. I was 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, years old. I know that there were things that were done in order to create those crops. And those crops were then distributed to members of the church to help feed members of the church when, people could come there and get food. I know it happens, it happens now. People still do this. It's a popular practice in the church, in the black church, in various places. I know this happens. So my point is this. I knew that there were certain things that were done to create the string beans. There are certain things done to create the tomatoes, certain things done to create the lettuce and the greens and what have you, the cabbage, the corn. The corn was a great one. That was great. Picking corn, it was cool. It was hot out there, but, it's picking and plucking and, when you were a kid, you got all this energy. It was pretty cool to do that with Granddaddy. It's a fond memory of mine. Here's the thing. There's things that are done. They're very specific things that need to take place. There are certain conditions that need to be present to create crime. We know there are things that need to be done to create crops. Water, oxygen, fertilizer. You kind of plant certain stuff at certain times, and there's a way you got to till. It's a lot to it, right? It's the depth at which you must plant. Okay, all these things you got to do to care for it. If you don't pull it at a certain time, it'll rot, right? So what America wants us to believe, folks, and what some people, and some very good people, who are just fooled by propaganda. And when I say fooled by propaganda, remember, guys, I don't even want to shit on you, right? Because this is what we always got to remember, and I try to remind myself, and I want to help you notice. America spends a lot of money to fool us. It's real easy to be fooled by America because so much money is spent doing that. It's not always about a lie that's told. It's a lie by omission. It's not always what they cover, it's what they don't cover. Back to policing. Back to the garden. You don't think we have smart enough people in America who haven't figured out the conditions that are necessary to create crime in Chicago, in Detroit, in Newark? America knows. We have scholars and professors. We have smart people who know these things. But we also have a money interest in not pursuing those solutions, in not implementing those solutions. Because on the back of this lie, The crops from that lie are massive profits for private prisons. The remnants of the lie of maintaining the lie, of not giving you the information, of not solving the actual problem, of preventing crime, is a whole industry of law enforcement. In some places you go in America, you'll find jails where there are hardly any people. In some towns across America you go to, the number one industry is what? Jails. Everybody works at the jail. The only good job in the town is the jail, is the prison, is the penitentiary. Do you realize that part of our economy, a substantial amount of our economy, maybe 10, 15%, and that's a lot in some states, are directly derived from locking mofos up. Basically, what I'm telling you is if we start solving the crime problem for real, some people are gonna lose their jobs. Don't be a moral dumbass thinking, oh, well, they would do it if they could. Yeah, some people would, but unfortunately, those people don't run the system. So, when we talked about defund the police in 2021, we weren't just talking about getting rid of the police totally. We're talking about reallocating and creating systems and mechanisms, putting solutions in place that would actually lower crime. Because just putting more money into our current situation is not lowering crime. In fact, crime, they say, is going up. Why is crime going up if the payments have gone up too? Why is that happening? Obviously, what you're doing is not working. None of us would run a business. Now, I know there's some people out there that want to be entrepreneurs or who are entrepreneurs. You may not know everything, but you may know this. I'm an entrepreneur myself. This little channel is my entrepreneur. TTL Media is my media company. I don't know everything. I'm learning on the fly. But I know this. I would not throw good money after bad money on investments that don't give me benefits that are positive. I would not continue to put money into something that's losing, that's not getting better, that's not benefiting this show. But what America does and what we do from state by state is put more money into law enforcement without the numbers going down. Without there being a lowering of crime. Without better outcomes for the citizens. So, even if you say you love cops, do you really love cops if you're not making life safer for cops or for citizens? If the only solution is to keep throwing money into a system that's not working? No. But there are people that have been fooled by the propaganda and distracted, just like Ghislaine Maxwell, just like Jeffrey Epstein. Distracted by the lights and sounds, the blinking lights, the flashing lights, and not looked at the reality that is, if you don't change the conditions which create crime, you will not lower crime. If you do not tackle the conditions that must be necessary. So here's where racism comes in, Johnson. Here's the racist part. The reason why this works so well, because most people would figure it out. Like most Americans are not that dumb. Well, a lot of Americans are not that dumb. Some of us are smart enough to figure this out. At some point, they would figure it out. But racism saves the day because racism makes it okay to defy logic. Because somehow they convinced America. America convinced Americans. And look, I would love to say it was just white people, but black people, some black people go along with this too. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are. As long as you got black people, you're going to have crime. They convinced them of that. That's what racism does for you. All logic is gone. Because they believe that black people are inherently criminal. So therefore, it doesn't matter what the ground is. It defies all logic. It makes no sense. You cannot grow tomatoes on concrete. You cannot grow squash in mud, right? So you can if you muddy it, it'll stop growing. There's a depth that turnips grow, potatoes grow out the ground. Some things grow under the ground, some things grow out top of the ground. There's different there are different requirements to grow certain vegetables, right? What I'm saying is, these are all very logical, but when it comes to race, once you throw race in the mix, you don't have to make sense, because blackness explains it all. Oh, they're black, so therefore, it doesn't matter if they had parents who had good jobs. It doesn't matter if the parents have PTSD, if dad has PTSD from going in the military because he had no job opportunities. Therefore, he goes in the military, goes overseas, comes back, is all wired, all misfiring. He's suffering the ramifications from being in that institution, from being in the service, from being in the Army or being in the Navy or Marines or whatever. All looking for a way to finance school. He wanted to go to school. He wanted a job. There were no jobs. He wanted the service to have a career. He goes in the service. He goes overseas. He comes back. He has PTSD. He comes back to his family. He tries to build a family. He has this mental issue. But the fact that dad is not who that dad could be, that dad is suffering through this PTSD situation, which impacts his life at home, with his children, with his wife, and the family structure itself. None of that is taken into consideration because he's black. So they said the only reason why this child is having problems and acting out is this a black kid. And that's what black kids do. This is what black neighborhoods do. This is what happens. They don't look around and say, well, where are the jobs? Hey, people with jobs. It's just logical. See, with white people, you get to have logic. Hey, if there's no jobs, people gonna do shit if there's no jobs, Johnson. Okay? I've been on my own since I was 16 years old. I haven't lived at home since I was 16 years old. I'm a lot older than 16 now. No one I ever met who did crime did so because they thought it was fun. Now, I'm not saying those people don't exist. I'm not saying there are people that are screwed up that way. How they got that way, that's a whole nother conversation. Most of the time, the people that are that way got that way through abuse, neglect, and trauma, okay? And those things are typically not done by oneself, to oneself. So that's a whole nother conversation. But I'm saying, even if we take those people out, the people that I know who did things, who broke laws, who did certain things, they did so not just because it was fun to do. For some of them, it was survival. For some of them, was lack of resources and wanting to have a better life. So we know the conditions that are necessary to create crime, that create hopelessness, that create people having their back against the wall, that create people to do things that are against the law. We understand it. We know it, just like planting squash, planting string beans. But America has a vested interest in not having that thing happen. The same way it has a vested interest in prosecuting Ghislaine Maxwell and not getting to all the other rich bastards that was on the planes, that were going to the island, that were touching the girls. And saying, well, we got Ghislaine, we're all good. Or, well, we got Derek Chauvin, all the police are fine. Oh, well, we locked up a couple of black kids. Things will be better now. In Newark, we got the bad guys. We got those blacks. And it's all bullshit. It's not fixing the system. And you are delusional if you think America doesn't have the resources to solve its problems. The only problem is America is really resourceful in making more money and not solving problems. There is a benefit, a cost analysis is done to determine that it's better not to solve the problem, but it's better to keep the problem going because, hey, look, Chris Rock said it 20 years ago, 15 years ago. The money's in the comeback, not the cure. The money's in the treatment, not the cure. So, in 2021, I heard a lot of people talking about defund the police. Oh, talk about defund the police. Learned people, smart people, people that have the internet. You mean to tell me Don Lemon don't know what the fuck defund the police meant? Come on, you think he's really that dumb and he didn't know we meant to create more programs surrounding these communities? They gave options. after-school programs, preschool programs, job training programs, GED programs. Programs for children to learn to be electricians, to be drywall, to work on cars, all these different things. That's just young people. Parenting programs, psychiatric programs, therapy, all the things. We got drugs, a problem with drugs in our communities. Okay, rehabilitative programs. Like there are all these other things that you had room in the budget for. You're spending X amount of dollars just on cops. You couldn't take 20% of your budget and spend it on the family structure, helping families? We know it would work. We know it couldn't get any worse. If crime's still going up, if the crime is only going up and it's not getting better, why would you not want to try another thing? You mean to tell me that these journalists, these writers, these commentators don't know? They can't do a simple Google search, and for some reason all of them get it wrong and say defund the police means get rid of all cops? Come on, no one. So it's a concerted effort. It's not an accident. It's not a mistake, a slip up, a oopsie that they all got it wrong in 2021. That they mischaracterized what defund the police really meant, and that they were distracting us with bullshit to keep us from actually looking at the problem.